I never thought my own family would shut the door on us at Christmas. Yet there I was, on Christmas Eve night, sitting on the edge of my worn-out couch, staring at the plate of Huffington sugar cookies my daughter had so carefully decorated. The house was quiet, except for the soft hum of the heater. My phone buzzed on the coffee table dash again. Another notification. Another photo. My mother, my brother, my sister, all of them gathered around the big dining table, laughing. The long table I helped my mother buy years ago. The table where, every Christmas, I used to sit with a cup of hot chocolate in my hands, watching my daughter tear into her presents, surrounded by cousins and grandparents. Except this year, there was no seat for us. I glanced toward the kitchen. My 12-year-old Emma had insisted on wearing her sparkly red Christmas dress anyway. She'd sat at our little two-person table earlier, hands folded neatly in her lap, blinking fast to hold back tears. She'd tried to make the best of it. She'd even whispered, "It's okay, Mom, we have each other." I forced a smile for her then, but inside, something cracked. My family had told me word for word, "There's just no room this year." As if my child and I were strangers, as if we didn't belong. I picked up my phone and scrolled through their smiling faces. My brother's kids sitting where Emma should have been. My mom, holding a glass of wine. No empty chairs. No hesitation. Just life going on without us. I didn't cry. Not then. I just sat there, feeling that cold, heavy ache settled into my chest like a weight. How did it come to this? How did we become the ones left out in the cold? I wrapped a blanket around my shoulders, stared at the twinkling lights on our tiny tree, and let the silence fill the room. They thought I'd just accept it. They thought I'd stay quiet. But they were wrong. Because that night, sitting in the glow of our little tree, a spark of something fierce lit up inside me. But let me start from the beginning. If you really want to understand how everything unraveled, we need to go back to late November. That's when the cracks in my family, cracks I'd ignored for years, started to look more like canyons. I'm the middle child of 3. My older brother Paul is the golden boy. He married young, has 2 kids, a big house, and a job that makes my mother glow with pride. My younger sister Lily is sweet, but spineless. She hates confrontation so much she practically vanishes when things get tense. Then there's Miracho the black sheep, 38, divorced, raising Emma on my own, working 2 part-time jobs just to keep us afloat. I've always been the one who didn't quite fit the shiny family mold. My mother runs the family like a general. She plans the holidays down to the napkin color, and no one questions her. Christmas has always been at her house. For years, I told myself her controlling ways were just tradition, something to smile through, for Emma's sake. But last Thanksgiving, something shifted. It started with the group text. Mom messaged us all, planning Thanksgiving dinner. "Let's divide up the menu like we always do." Paul immediately claimed the turkey and main dishes, like he always does. His wife, Melissa, added, "I'll bring my famous mac and cheese." "Famous, please. It's boxed pasta with too much butter." I typed out, "I can bring dessert and maybe a side." But before I could even hit send, Mom replied, "Rachel, maybe just dessert this year. We don't want too many repeats." It stung more than I wanted to admit. Dessert always, the afterthought. I told myself not to overthink it. It's just food, I thought. But that small sting was only the beginning. At Thanksgiving dinner, Paul made one of his trademark jokes. He's the kind of man who disguises cruelty as humor. He leaned over to me while carving the turkey and said loud enough for the table to hear, "Hey Rach, maybe next year you can host if you win the lottery." Oh wait, I forgot your kitchen wouldn't fit all of us. The table erupted in polite chuckles. Mom rolled her eyes in a way that wasn't directed at him but at me, as if I were the one being dramatic. I laughed weakly, stabbing my fork into a pile of mashed potatoes, pretending it didn't land like a punch to the gut. Emma, bless her, tried to change the subject. She was sitting next to Grandma, excitedly talking about the Christmas decorations we'd started putting up at home. "We got a little tree this year, Grandma, and I made a star for the top. It's sparkly," she said with that proud little grin of hers. But my mom didn't even look at her. She just waved her hand and said, "That's nice, dear," in the same tone someone uses when they're not really listening. She turned immediately back to Melissa to ask about their real tree, the one they get delivered from Vermont every year. Emma's face fell a little, and I always notice, I should have seen the signs, I thought. But every year, I kept hoping maybe they'd see us, really see us. The weeks leading up to Christmas were always hectic but filled with little traditions I clung to. For years, I've been the one to help Mom decorate her house, untangling lights while she barked orders. This year, She didn't even ask me. She sent a photo to the family group chat of the house already done up. Paul and Melissa had gone over the previous weekend to help. When I commented, "Wow, early this year," she just replied, "We wanted it done right." Done right. As if my years of helping didn't count. Then came the Christmas dinner planning call. Every year, Mom made a big production out of who would sit where, what we'd eat, and what songs we'd play. It was ridiculous, but it was ours. When she started rattling off the guest list, I noticed something odd. Paul's in-laws were coming this year. I didn't say anything, just listened as she talked about rearranging the furniture to make it perfect. But when I asked what I should bring, she said, "Oh, maybe nothing this year, Rachel. We'll see." I could feel it then, that slow, creeping sense of being edged out of my own family's celebration. I tried to talk to Lily about it afterward. "Does it feel like Mom's, I don't know, pushing me out?" I asked her on the phone one night while washing dishes. She hesitated. "I think maybe she's just stressed. You know how Mom gets about the holidays." "No, Lily," I said, drying my hands on a dish towel. "This feels different. She's making space for everyone, except us." Lily sighed. "I don't want to get in the middle. Just talk to her." Of course, talk to her, as if I hadn't spent years trying to bridge this distance, as if I hadn't bit my tongue at every slight for the sake of family harmony. The final straw before everything truly unraveled came one chilly afternoon in early December. Emma and I dropped by Mom's house, unannounced, something we'd done countless times before. She'd always said we were welcome. But that day, when we rang the bell, she opened the door looking irritated. "Rachel, you should have called," she said sharply. "We're busy." Behind her, Paul and Melissa were setting up chairs, wrapping gifts. The house smelled like cinnamon and pine noir Christmas scent. Emma's eyes lit up when she saw the big tree, but Mom stepped slightly in front of her, as if we were intruding on something private. "Just wanted to say hi," I said, forcing a smile. "Well, we've got a lot to do. Maybe next time," she said, not even inviting us in. That night, as Emma went to bed, she asked me in the softest little voice, "Mom, did Grandma forget about us this Christmas?" My chest tightened. "No, sweetheart," I lied. "She's just busy." But deep down, I knew the truth. We weren't part of the plan this year, and that simmering frustration, it was starting to boil. But I still held on to hope. Hope that somehow, they'd realize what they were doing and make space for us. I had no idea just how wrong I was. 2 weeks before Christmas, it happened. The moment that took all the quiet little slights over the years and twisted them into something sharp, something I couldn't ignore anymore. It was a Tuesday night, December 12th, around 8:30 p.m. Emma was at the kitchen table, working on her school project, little paper snowflakes scattered around her like confetti. She was humming a Christmas song under her breath, her sparkly headband tilted slightly off-center. She'd been talking all week about how excited she was to help Grandma decorate cookies this year. I picked up my phone and called my mom to confirm what time we should come over on Christmas Eve. Like we always did. It wasn't even a question in my mind. We always spent it together. She answered on the third ring. "Hello." Her voice was tight, distracted. "Hey, Mom," I said, trying to sound cheerful. "Just checking in about Christmas Eve. Do you want us there around 5, like last year?" There was a pause, a long one, the kind of pause that makes your stomach drop even before the words come. "Well," she started slowly, "about that." I frowned. "About what?" Another pause. Then she sighed, like this was hard for her. "We just don't have the space this year, Rachel. Things are a little different, with Paul and Melissa's in-laws coming, and their friends, and the kids. It's just, there's no room." I blinked. "No room." She rushed to fill the silence. "You know how crowded it gets. I don't want it to be uncomfortable for Emma. It's just better this way. Maybe next year." I actually laughed. This small, incredulous laugh that didn't sound like me. "You're serious?" "Mom, it's Christmas. We've been there every single year since Emma was born. Since I was born. You're telling me we don't have a chair?" "Rachel, don't make this difficult," she snapped. "You know how it is. It's not personal." "Not personal." That was the knife. I could feel my throat tightening, but I forced the words out. "You're excluding your own granddaughter so Paul's in-laws can sit at the table. They're staying the whole week," she said, as if that somehow justified everything. "It just makes more sense." I swallowed hard. "More sense for who?" She hesitated again, then said, softer, "I'm sorry. It's just how it worked out this year." I didn't trust myself to speak. If I opened my mouth, I was going to scream more, cry, maybe both. "Rachel," she said, like she was the one who needed comfort. Yeah, I finally managed, my voice barely above a whisper. I get it. Merry Christmas, Mom. I hung up before she could say anything else. When I turned around, Emma was looking at me. Her little paper snowflake was crumpled in her hand. What did Grandma say? She asked softly. My heart cracked in a way I can't quite describe. How do you explain to your child that the people who are supposed to love them unconditionally just didn't make room? She's just busy, sweetheart, I lied, forcing a smile that felt like splinters. It's complicated this year. But she wasn't fooled. 12 may be young, but she's not stupid. Her lips trembled. Are we not going to Grandma's? I walked over and wrapped my arms around her. I don't know yet, I whispered, but I promise you, we'll still have a good Christmas. She clung to me, and I felt her shoulders shake. Quiet crying, the kind that comes when a kid tries to be brave. Later that night, when she finally fell asleep, I sat on the floor by her bed, staring at the soft glow of the nightlight. I wanted to believe there was some misunderstanding, that my mom would call and say she'd changed her mind, but something deep inside told me she wouldn't. The next day, I called Lily. She's always been the peacekeeper, the one who tries to smooth things over. If anyone knew what was really going on, it was her. She picked up right away. Hey Rach. Lily, I said, skipping the small talk. Did Mom say anything to you about Christmas? About there not being room? There was silence on the other end. Too much silence. Lily, my voice hardened. What's going on? She exhaled slowly. Please don't get mad. Oh God, I muttered. What did she say? It's not just Paul and Melissa's in-law. Mom and Paul, they're renting those outdoor heaters and bringing in extra tables. They're doing a big dinner this year, like bigger than usual. I felt my stomach flip. Wait, extra tables, heaters, then why? Because, she trailed off, because they don't want it to be too chaotic. Mom thinks it would be easier if they excluded us. I finished for her. My voice was flat. Rachel, she doesn't mean it like that. How else could she mean it? I snapped. She lied to me, Lily. She said there was no room. Meanwhile, they're literally renting extra space. I know, she said softly. I tried to talk to her. She said she just wants it to be elegant this year. You know how she gets with appearances. Appearances, that word burned. Of course, Paul's in-laws were wealthy, polished, everything my mother wanted her family to look like. And me, a single mom with a second-hand coat and a too small apartment. I didn't fit her picture-perfect Christmas fantasy. I rubbed my eyes, feeling that familiar mixture of anger and humiliation twisting together. So what? Emma and I just spend Christmas alone. She didn't say it like that, Lily whispered, but we both knew she had. She did, I said. She absolutely did. There was a long pause. Then Lily whispered, I'm sorry, Raj. I really am. Yeah, I muttered. Me too. When I hung up, I just sat there at the kitchen table, the afternoon light falling across the floor in thin strips. Emma was in the living room, watching a Christmas movie. I could hear her laughing at something silly, and for a second, I envied her innocence. But innocence doesn't protect you from heartbreak, because she walked into the kitchen a few minutes later right as my phone lit up with another group text. It was from Mom. A photo of the new table setup, chairs lined up like soldiers. A caption, can't wait to host everyone this year. It's going to be perfect. Emma looked at the photo, then at me. Her little face crumpled. They're having Christmas without us, she said. Not a question, a statement. I tried to say something, anything, but my throat closed up. She ran to her room and slammed the door. A moment later, I heard the muffled sound of her crying into her pillow. I didn't follow right away. I just sat there, gripping the edge of the table, shaking. Anger, hurt, shame, they all tangled together like barbed wire inside me. I'd put up with years of my family treating me like I didn't measure up, but Emma, she didn't deserve this. I finally went to her room, sat on the edge of the bed, and stroked her hair. Her cheeks were blotchy, eyes red. Sweetheart, I whispered, I know this hurts. I know it feels really unfair, but this isn't about you. This is about them, and it's not okay. She sniffled. Did I do something wrong? That broke me. No, baby, you didn't do anything wrong. I held her tight as she cried, and something inside me solidified. I wasn't just sad anymore. I was furious, not the kind of fury that burns out fast, the kind that hardens into resolve. This wasn't about me being the black sheep anymore. This was about my daughter being made to feel unwanted, and that I couldn't forgive that. As I tucked her in that night, I stared at the ceiling in the dark and whispered to myself, they're not going to get away with this. That was the moment everything changed. That's when I knew I had to act. For the next few nights, sleep was a stranger. I'd lie awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling, the words "no room" looping in my head like a broken record. I wasn't someone who went looking for revenge. God knows I've swallowed my pride more times than I can count, just to keep the fragile illusion of family intact. But this time, it wasn't about me. It was about Emma. I kept seeing her face that night, her small shoulders shaking, the way she whispered, "Did I do something wrong?" And something inside me hardened. No, I wasn't going to let this slide. But I also wasn't going to scream or throw a tantrum. That's what they expected from me. They'd paint me as overreacting, like always. No, if I was going to do this, I was going to do it smart. The first step was information. I spent a long night scrolling through old group texts, the photos, the invitations, the traditions I'd helped build over the years. Every time Mom needed extra hands setting up tables or cooking, guess who was there? Me. Every time Paul forgot to bring something and Mom had to rely on someone last minute, me. I found the messages from last Christmas when she thanked me for holding everything together. I went even further back, screenshots of my contributions. The Christmas I bought the entire dessert table when Paul forgot to chip in. The year I paid for the tree lights because Mom said money was tight. All those moments they brushed off like nothing. And then it hit me. They didn't just exclude us this year. They used me all those years before, like a silent hand behind the curtain, and then tossed me aside the moment someone shinier came along. The next day, I called Jenna. She's my closest friend, the kind who's seen me ugly cry in the parking lot, and still hands me coffee the next morning. When I told her what happened, she didn't even try to sugarcoat it. "Rachel, that's disgusting. They treated you like help, not family," she said. I rubbed my temples. "I don't want to be petty, Jen. I need them to see what they've done. Really see it. And I want Emma to have a Christmas that doesn't make her feel like she's an afterthought." Jenna leaned forward on the video call, eyes narrowing the way they do when she's scheming. "Then don't play their game. Make your own table." Literally. At first I laughed, but then the idea grew in my mind like a flame catching kindling. We started brainstorming. By the end of the call, we had the bones of a plan. Simple, elegant, devastating. Step 1. Find a venue. I remembered the community center near my apartment, the one that had hosted holiday charity drives in the past. I called them the next morning, pretending to be calm even though my hands were shaking. By some miracle, their event hall was still available on Christmas Eve morning. I booked it. Step 2. Food. I'd seen in a group text that Paul's in-laws had bragged about their fancy caterer. I didn't have the same kind of money, but I didn't need it. The local diner I sometimes worked extra shifts at during weekends, Tom's, was more than happy to cater for a discounted price when they heard it was a community event. Step 3. The guest list. I didn't want to invite my family. No, this wasn't about them. This was about taking back the holiday they tried to erase me from. So I started texting people they never expected me to. The ladies from Mom's church group, the neighbors I'd helped with bake sales, Emma's teachers, old family friends who'd drifted away over the years, people who'd always known me as the quiet one. I worded the invitations carefully. For anyone who has ever felt like there wasn't a seat at the table this year, I made one. Christmas Eve, Community Hall, 5 p.m. It wasn't just a dinner. It was a statement, but beneath the fire, I wrestled with doubt. What if it backfired? What if no one showed up? What if I was just proving them right that I was the outsider? Jenna's voice echoed in my head. "They took your voice, Rach. This is you taking it back." The night before I made the final arrangements, I sat on my couch with a folder of screenshots, bills, and plans. I could have confronted them. I could have begged for a seat. But I was done begging. For the first time in years, I didn't feel powerless. I felt steady, cold, determined. As I looked at Emma sleeping on the couch, wrapped in her red blanket, I whispered to myself, this Christmas, she knows she matters, even if they never get it. The plan was set. Now all that was left was execution. Christmas Eve morning dawned gray and quiet, the kind of cold where the air stings your face the second you step outside. I woke up before Emma did. She was still curled up under her red blanket on the couch, hugging the stuffed reindeer she'd had since she was 5. For the first time in days, I felt something other than anger. I felt purpose. This wasn't about getting even anymore. This was about showing her and myself that we didn't need to beg for a seat at anyone else's table. We could build our own. I slipped on my boots, grabbed my to-go mug of coffee, and headed to the community center with Jenna. She was waiting out front with 2 giant thermoses and a grin. That meant business. Ready to raise some hell in the most wholesome way possible, she teased. Let's do this, I said. We had the hall from 10 a.m. to midnight. It wasn't fancy. The floors were scuffed, and the walls had faded holiday banners from some past event. But when I opened the doors and inhaled the faint scent of pine and cinnamon air freshener, it felt right. Like ours, I unpacked boxes of string lights I'd borrowed from neighbors. While Jenna unfolded the tablecloths I'd thrifted for $5 each. Emma arrived with one of my co-workers around noon, still in her sparkly red Christmas dress, eyes wide with wonder at the transformation already underway. "Mom," she whispered, "this looks like a Christmas movie." "Yeah," I said, swallowing the lump in my throat, "because this time, you're the star of it." By 1 o'clock, the tables were set with mismatched plates and candles in little mason jars. Tom's Diner crew rolled in with trays of food, turkey, mac and cheese, sweet potatoes, cinnamon rolls, hot chocolate, the same caterer Paul's in-laws bragged about. Nope, ours smelled better. And then came the guests. I'd sent out those invitations 2 weeks earlier, some heartfelt messages that said, "For anyone who's ever felt like there wasn't a seat at the table, this year, there's a place for you." Christmas Eve, Community Hall, 5 p.m., Rachel and Emma. At first, I wasn't sure anyone would come, but by 4:30 p.m., people started filing in. Mrs. Doyle from Mom's church group, the Petersons from down the street, Emma's old third-grade teacher, even a couple of family friends I hadn't seen since before the divorce. "Rachel," Mrs. Doyle said, giving me a tight hug. I saw the message and thought, well, that's the kindest thing I've heard in years. I smiled, a real smile this time. There's room for everyone. One by one, people filled the hall with laughter and chatter. Kids ran around with candy canes. Someone started playing soft carols on an old speaker. It wasn't the polished, magazine cover Christmas my family loved to stage. It was messy, warm, alive. While I was pouring hot chocolate for Emma, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Group chat. My brother, Paul. "Mom's freaking out. Where is everyone?" I nearly choked on my own laugh. "Mom, where are the Petersons? The church group, the Doyles, they all said they were coming. Paul, Melissa's parents are confused why the table's half empty." I tucked the phone away without replying. By 6 p.m., we had over 60 people at the community center. Meanwhile, my mother's perfectly planned dinner was apparently missing about a third of their guest list. And then, the photos started. Someone snapped a shot of the twinkling lights and crowded tables and posted it on Facebook with the caption, "The most beautiful Christmas dinner in town." Rachel opened her doors to everyone who needed a place tonight. Another neighbor shared a picture of Emma laughing with frosting all over her hands as she decorated gingerbread cookies. And then the church ladies posted their group selfie with the caption, "Sometimes the real Christmas spirit isn't found at the fanciest table, but at the most welcoming one." I didn't need to tag anyone. Word travels fast in small communities. Around 7:15 p.m., Jenna nudged me. "Arash, incoming." I turned toward the entrance, and there they were. My mother, wrapped in her expensive red coat, Paul, looking irritated, Melissa, clutching her designer purse like it might shield her from the commoners. Behind them, my younger sister Lily hovered nervously, clearly dragged along. My mom's eyes swept the room, taking in the crowd, the decorations, the laughter, the line at the dessert table. For a second, she just stared, mouth slightly open. "Rachel," she said finally, voice tight, "what is this?" I wiped my hands on my apron and met her gaze head-on. "It's Christmas Eve dinner. Ours." "You," she blinked rapidly. "You planned this?" "Yes." I tilted my head. "For everyone who didn't have a seat at your table." Paul snorted, like I was being dramatic. "You've got to be kidding me." But Melissa wasn't laughing. She was checking her phone, probably seeing the flood of posts online. Her perfect Christmas dinner wasn't the event of the night anymore. "This is incredibly disrespectful." My mom hissed under her breath. "I invited these people months ago, and they chose to be here," I said simply, "because I made room for them." She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Lily stepped forward, almost apologetically. "Rachel, it's beautiful, honestly." Paul scoffed. "She just wants attention." I laughed softly. "No, Paul. I wanted Emma to feel loved on Christmas. And, from the looks of it," I gestured toward the crowded tables, "we're not the only ones who needed that." Emma, oblivious to the tension, came running over. "Grandma, Uncle Paul," she said brightly. "Look, I helped decorate." My mother's eyes softened for half a second when she looked at Emma, but then she caught sight of Mrs. Doyle waving at her. Her cheeks flushed. This wasn't how she planned to look tonight. This is inappropriate, she muttered. Dragging people away from family plans like this. I didn't drag anyone, I said evenly. I gave them a choice, something you didn't give us. For a heartbeat, no one said anything. Then Jenna appeared at my side, holding 2 plates of turkey and smiling with sugar-sweet menace. Either grab a plate or head back to your cold, half-empty dining table. Up to you. Paul glared at her. She didn't blink. Around 8 p.m., a reporter from the local paper showed up. Apparently, one of the church ladies had tipped them off. Are you the organizer? The young woman with the press badge asked me, notebook in hand. I froze for a second. Ah, yeah, I guess I am. She grinned. We're doing a short piece for tomorrow's holiday feature. A lot of people are talking about this dinner. It's kind of the heartwarming story of the night. My mom's face paled when she overheard that. Her big dinner was supposed to be the family event everyone talked about. Instead, here I was, in a thrifted apron, in a community hall, about to be in the paper. The reporter asked Emma a few questions. She was glowing, cheeks flushed, telling them about the best Christmas ever. I could see my mother stiffen. For once, she wasn't in control of the narrative. By the time the reporter left, people were singing carols. Someone had brought an old guitar, and a group of kids were dancing in a messy line. Jenna handed me a cup of cider and clinked hers against mine. This, she said, is better than any revenge I could have imagined. My mother cornered me in the hallway by the coat rack as people were laughing inside. Her lipstick was slightly smudged, a sure sign she was unraveling. Rachel, she whispered, I can't believe you would do something so public. You've humiliated me. I took a slow breath. No, Mom, I didn't humiliate you. You did that when you told your own granddaughter there was no room at your table. She flinched, just barely, but I saw it. Do you have any idea how this looks? She hissed. I met her eyes. Yes, it looks like your daughter finally stopped begging to be included. Behind her, I could see Paul pacing, probably fuming over the social fallout. Melissa was scrolling furiously on her phone. Lily just stood quietly, watching. Go home, Mom, I said gently, or stay and have a plate. But either way, this, I gestured to the warm glow of the hall, is ours tonight. She didn't move for a long moment. Then she turned and walked out, Paul and Melissa trailing behind her. Lily gave me a small, shaky smile before following them. Once they were gone, something inside me eased. The air felt lighter, like I'd been holding my breath for years and finally let it out. I walked back into the hall to find Emma dancing with a group of kids, her face lit up like a star. Mom, she called out, come dance. I laughed, setting my cider aside, and joined her. For the first time in years, I wasn't standing on the sidelines of my own family story. I was writing it. By 10 p.m., everyone was full, warm, and happy. Jenna gave a little toast, raising her glass of hot cocoa. To Rachel, she said, for proving that the best revenge is a table built with Levande extra mac and cheese. Laughter erupted around the room. Someone started singing Silent Night. Emma leaned her head on my shoulder, and in that moment, I felt it. Not the bitterness of payback, but the sweetness of taking back my power. My phone buzzed again later that night. A text from Lily. Lily, I wish I'd had the guts to stand up to them. What you did was kind of incredible. And then one from Mom. Mom, we need to talk. I didn't reply. Not that night. Instead, I walked outside with Emma. We stood in the crisp winter air, looking at the faint snow starting to fall. She squeezed my hand and whispered, this was the best Christmas ever. And she was right. I didn't need their table anymore. I'd built my own. The weeks after Christmas were strange. Not quiet, no. Quiet would have been too easy. It was uneasy, like the dust after a storm. When everything looks familiar but nothing feels the same. My mother didn't speak to me for almost 2 weeks. Not a single text, not a call, nothing. And honestly, that silence was the loudest thing she'd ever said to me. It used to crush me when she froze me out like that. I used to bend over backward to fix things, just to earn her approval again. But this time, I didn't chase her. The world didn't end. Emma and I kept going with our lives. She went back to school with stories about the best Christmas party ever. Her teacher even printed out a photo of her from the local paper and taped it to the classroom bulletin board. She glowed when she saw it. That alone made everything worth it. But not everyone was celebrating. About a week after Christmas, Lily called. Mom's not happy, she said carefully. I figured, I replied, sipping my coffee. She's embarrassed. Lily continued. People have been talking. You know how the church ladies are. They've been telling everyone how lovely your dinner was, how it had real Christmas spirit. I bit back a laugh. I didn't plan it to embarrass her. I planned it to give my daughter a Christmas where she wasn't an afterthought. I know, Lily said softly, but Mom's never been great at looking in the mirror. That was the understatement of the year. The next day, my brother Paul called. That alone was surprising. He usually let Mom do the emotional heavy lifting. He started the conversation with this forced casual tone, like nothing had happened. So, he said, I hear your little party was a big hit. It was, I said, keeping my voice even. You know, he continued, you kind of blindsided us. Mom had everything planned, and you just swooped in. It wasn't cool. I laughed, not loud, not cruel, just a short, honest laugh. Paul, I didn't swoop in. You all excluded me and my daughter from Christmas. You lied to me. I built something of my own. That's not blindsiding. That's survival. He didn't like that answer. We didn't exclude you. It was just complicated. Complicated is what you say when you don't want to admit you screwed up, I said. You all made your choices. So did I. He tried to pivot. Look, Melissa's parents were really confused, and Mom's upset. Can't you just apologize so we can move on? That one made me pause, not because I was tempted, but because I finally realized how absurd it was. For years, I'd been the one apologizing for their cruelty, for daring to take up space, but not anymore. No, I said clearly, I'm not apologizing for giving my daughter a Christmas she deserved. He sputtered something about family unity before hanging up. I didn't call him back. Small towns have their flaws, but they're good at one thing: talking. Within a week, word had spread. People who'd been at my dinner told people who hadn't, and the story grew legs of its own. Did you hear what Rachel did? She hosted everyone they left out. Her mom didn't invite her own granddaughter. That's awful. The narrative wasn't mine to control anymore, but for once, it worked in my favor. Mutual friends who'd always politely stayed on Mom's side started reaching out. A couple of the church ladies even dropped off a card that said, "Thank you for reminding us what Christmas is about." It was simple, but it meant everything. Meanwhile, Mom's carefully curated image as the perfect hostess was cracked wide open. She hated that more than anything. Mid-January, she finally called. No text, no warm-up, just straight to business. Rachel, she said sharply, we need to talk. I figured this was coming, I replied. I don't appreciate how you went behind my back, she said. You made me look like a fool. I took a deep breath. No, Mom, you did that yourself when you told us there was no room. Her silence on the other end was icy. You humiliated me, she said eventually. I leaned back in my chair. You humiliated yourself. All I did was choose not to let your rejection define our Christmas. You were the one who excluded us, Mom. Your embarrassment is not my responsibility. She tried to reassert control. Family should be private. Rachel, we don't air our dirty laundry to the whole town. I didn't air anything, I said. I didn't even mention you. I just opened my door to people who wanted to come. I could almost hear her grinding her teeth. You could have just talked to me. I let out a quiet, disbelieving laugh. Talked to you, like when you told me there was no room, like when you lied to me and made my daughter feel unwanted. She didn't have a comeback for that. You embarrassed me, she repeated. But softer now. And you hurt your granddaughter, I said. I can live with your embarrassment. Can you live with what you did to her? She hung up without saying goodbye. And for the first time in my life, I didn't cry after one of our fights. I just sat there, exhaled, and felt lighter. Emma started therapy in early January. I wanted her to have a safe space to process everything, not just this Christmas, but the years of subtle favoritism she'd absorbed, even when I tried to shield her from it. The first session, she came out smiling. I like Dr. Patel, she said. She listens. Watching her grow into herself, watching her find her voice, it was like watching a little seed finally get sunlight. Meanwhile, I started setting boundaries I'd never dared to set before. When Mom invited me to coffee to talk in late January, I agreed, but I made it clear it wouldn't be a conversation where I apologized. I showed up, calm, collected. She danced around the subject at first, talking about how things got out of hand, how everyone was emotional. Mom, I interrupted gently, you need to understand something. We're not going back to how things were. I'm done begging for scraps of your love. Her face tightened, but she didn't argue. I think, for the first time, she actually believed me. Paul and Melissa eventually sent a half-hearted text. Sorry things got weird at Christmas. Hope next year goes smoother. I didn't respond. Lily, though she was different, she started calling more, not to take sides, but to actually talk. I think watching everything unfold shook something in her. She admitted, one night over the phone, I've been letting them treat you like this for years. I didn't say anything because it was easier not to. I'm sorry. That one did make me tear up. Not because it fixed everything, but because it was real. In February, Emma and I hosted a small dinner at home. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti, garlic bread, and hot cocoa. But this time, we invited Jenna, some neighbors, and Lily. When Emma set the table, she put out name cards she'd made herself. She giggled as she placed one next to mine that said, Best Mom. As everyone laughed and talked around our little thrifted table, I realized something. For years, I'd been trying to earn a place at someone else's table, a table where the rules kept shifting and the seats kept shrinking. But now, we had our own, and the people sitting around it actually wanted to be there. I wasn't chasing anymore. I was choosing. And that changed everything. Looking back now, I can honestly say that Christmas changed everything for me, not because it broke me, but because it finally forced me to stop trying to fit into a place where I was never truly welcome. For years, I kept telling myself, maybe next year will be different. I bent, twisted, and shrank parts of myself to keep a seat at a table that treated my daughter and me like afterthoughts. I thought that was what family meant: tendering, forgiving, waiting for people to love you the way they're supposed to. But the truth is, love isn't supposed to make you feel small. And real family doesn't tell a child they don't have a place at Christmas. That night, when Emma smiled under the twinkle lights at our table, surrounded by people who chose to be there, something inside me clicked. I realized I didn't need their approval to build a meaningful life. I didn't need their permission to create joy. I built my own table, and at that table, there's always room. This past year, Emma and I started making new traditions. We spend the holidays with friends who love us like family. We decorate our little tree together. We make too many cookies, and we open our door to anyone who needs a place to belong. It's not picture perfect, but it's real. It's warm. It's ours. If you're listening to this and you've ever been made to feel like there's no room for you, stop shrinking. Stop waiting for them to see your worth. Build your own table. The people who are meant to be in your life will find their seat there. I'm not bitter anymore. I'm free. And honestly, that's better than any seat at their table could ever be. Because the most powerful thing I ever did wasn't getting revenged, was choosing us. Choosing love, even when they didn't. Choosing to take up space. And if I can do that, so can you. Asterisk. If you've ever felt like there wasn't a place for you, remember this. You don't need anyone's permission to belong. You don't need to shrink to fit into someone else's table. You can build your own. And the people who truly see your worth, they'll find their seat there. This story isn't just about one Christmas. It's about reclaiming your power, your voice, your value. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs that reminder. Drop your thoughts below. Have you ever had to build your own table? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow for more stories that remind you, you are enough and you belong.